Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's TMS. Today is my great pleasure to present to you Patricia Migliarini, who is a PhD student in Information and Communication Technology at the University of L'Aquila in the DSIM department. And Patricia started as a computer science student in the Faculty of Mathematical, Physical and Natural Sciences at Univac. He graduated summa cum laude in Communication Science and Philosophy of Communication Processes at the Human Sciences Department here in L'Aquila. And right now he's working on the implementation of ethics in software architectures and intelligent systems in collaboration with the Exosol research team and the Emerge Center for Excellence on Connected, Geolocalized and Cybersecure Vehicles. So all cutting-edge research topics. It's very nice for me to introduce him. And he's also collaborating with the DSIM Intelligent Systems Laboratory, and he's an expert in human-computer interaction and ethics of technology, which is a huge topic nowadays. And today he will present his talk entitled Emotions Recognition and Analysis in Human-Computer Interaction. So, Patricia, thanks again for being here with us today, and the floor, even if it's virtual, is yours.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. Thank you a lot, Marco, for the nice presentation, introduction. Thank you to the whole TMS committee for the organization or the series of these interesting events. And I'm really happy to be able to be part of it with today's presentation. So today I will present a brief introduction to emotion recognition and analysis in human-computer interaction, as said by Marco. And this invited webinar follows the introduction of emotions and empathy in robotics, done by Professor Giovanni De Gasperis in his webinar about the cognitive and service robotics, that I think I can see him in the list of the attendees. So I thank you for being here today too. I'm going to share my screen. I hope it will be okay. Please let me know, Marco, if everything is okay.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Perfect. Okay. So, other than my master's degree thesis that was on those topics that Marco introduced, I had the chance to write some paper about empathic robot design with Giovanni and also Professor Stefania Costantini and the Intelligent System research team. And now I'm incorporating this knowledge and principles in my actual main research then, that is about ethics of technology, that includes also ethics of artificial intelligence, ethics of information, of data, and ethical of machine ethics. What we can say, what we can call machine ethics, that is a hot topic today. And then I'm conducting this research, my actual research, with the software engineering and architecture research team and with my PhD advisor, Professor Paolo Inverardi. So let's start with a brief introduction to the emotions of the artificial intelligence. In this slide, you can see the reference of the paper that we are introducing today, with the concept that we are introducing today. So talking about artificial intelligence, I would like to start with an introduction about artificial intelligence in pop culture, and I would like to start with a picturesque analogy, thanks also to the multidisciplinary nature of this conference. So even if the first known science fiction-like elements of imagery of space travel was proposed in stories such as Ovid's Metamorphosis in year 8 AD, the first time people actually seen something that could remind of a space journey, and in particular lunar landing, was in 1902 in the French movie Le Voyage dans la Lune, a trip to the moon. And just 67 years later, a man actually landed on the moon, and he also come back, unfortunately, shocking the entire world and changing the history of science forever. But what I'm saying is, in the same way we can transpose the artificial intelligence in pop culture, And here I'm talking about an artificial intelligence in the sense that something that can at least understand human emotion, or to be more precise, I should call it artificial empathy. But for the sake of simplicity, today I will refer to it as artificial intelligence. And so the first time people have seen artificial intelligence or artificial empathy on the big screen was in 1927 in the famous movie Metropolis. And it doesn't go. It wasn't like the other example. 67 years later, Bandai, a Japanese toy manufacturer, introduced Emilio, that was a radio-controlled robot toy known in Italy as Emilio. And Emilio was nothing more than a remote-controlled toy car in the shape of a robot, sold with a deceptive advertisement that disappointed an entire generation of children. Obviously, Emilio was not the state of the art in 90s robotics, science, or artificial intelligence. But I am absolutely unfair with this example. But I'm talking about pop culture, and if we think about pop culture, this is what ordinary people thought about what a robot was. And indeed, it was absolutely the only thing they can afford or have in their hands in 1994. And in general, in the 90s, even the flourished pop information technology was moving their first step with the launch of Windows 95, the operating system that started the so-called consumer-oriented information technology. But it is also known by who can remember it as the most unstable and insecure operating system of all time. And I like to remember of a Windows 95 description that captured my imagination, and was something like it worked about as well as a horse with wheels in front legs and hooves in the back legs. So I think this resembles what Windows 95 was at the time it was out. But why we are so far behind in artificial intelligence breaking in our day-to-day lives, with particular reference to artificial empathy, as said before? Probably, I think there are at least two valid answers to this question. The first one is because we are expecting from artificial intelligence to be something human-like, as we can imagine. And the second, that we have begun to question ourselves about what makes us human-like a bit later than we started studying nature, physics, mathematics, and economy also, etc. So, about the first answer, I'm trying to define what could be considered human-like, what human-like means. We can cite the 1993 work by Howard Gardner that is titled Frames of Mind, the Theories of Multiple Intelligence, that propose 8 abilities that manifest multiple intelligence in human being. So to be human-like should be considered at first through more than one intelligence, and not only one intelligence. That usually, when we talk about computers and artificial intelligence, we usually refer to logical mathematical intelligence, while we can recognize those other intelligences in humans, those other 7. And what we should start to talk about artificial intelligence is in plural form. So we should talk about artificial intelligence is even describe a single unit, and these resemble the multi-agent systems that Giovanni talked about in his speech. About the second answer, taking into account the interaction that we expect from human-like artificial intelligence or intelligences, an interaction that at least could resemble of a human being. even if it's not, it could not pass the Turing test, but it also can, it will be sufficient to resemble a human being. We will drive a bit deeper in the interpersonal ability, interpersonal intelligence, which inevitably passes through communication, in particular the communication of the paraverbal channel of emotions. So, there are any questions so far? I will try to address more complex questions at the end of the speech, as Marco said, but if there are more curiosities or questions that I can answer briefly, I will be happy to do right now before moving to the next section. So, any questions, curiosities? Okay. So the fact that we started a bit later with emotions could let us return to the moon landing, and because as studies about aeronautics and the first known flying object was built by the philosopher Archytas, and it was something like 400 years before Christ. So in reality, the moon landing came something like 2,400 years later. The scientific study about flying started. While in the first systematic study on emotions and that treats them as a scientific topic, so and therefore universally repeatable, reproducible, falsifiable, is dated 1872 and is signed by Charles Darwin. And he wrote that the emotions are instinctive, immediate response for survival purposes, introducing a biological nature and not a cultural nature. That we will talk about it later in this speech. And this writing was followed by a lot of interesting studies, and we would like to cite something like James and Lange, What is an Emotion, and the Mechanism of Emotions, where they challenge the common sense, saying, for example, that you feel fear because you tremble, and not the other way around. So, for example, you feel anger because your heartbeat is fast and not the opposite. This is very challenging to a challenge to the common sense. But even if interesting, in 1927, Cannon and Bard, with the alternative theory, they refute the James Lange theory through physiological studies, finding that physiological responses can be found even without emotion. So, refusing the James Lange theory. And also Arnold, with emotion and personality, introduced the appraisal theory, where first of all, Freire, there is a good or bad evaluation of the situation that arises. Then the emotion comes with the physiological response only later. And another interesting theory is the Schachter, with the Schachter one, with his book Cognitive, with his paper Cognitive, Social and Physiological Determinants of Emotional States. And here he introduces his two-factor theory for there's to be emotion where there must. He say that to be to consider that emotion, that there is an emotion, there must be even a physiological activation. So there must be a thought and a physiological activation. So both of them are two factors for be talking about emotions. Zionk, with feeling and thinking, he says that first of all it comes the feeling, so it is a sort of instinct, and then the physiological reaction follows. And Lazarus, with cognitive appraisal theory, where he says that first of all it comes the thought, and the thought is is necessary and sufficient to the emotion. So it's the only thing that we need to consider our feeling as emotions. At the same time, also physiological and psychosocial studies about mimic languages were conducted, and we can remember a very important study by Yorshu that realized the first manual of facial expression in 1979, and the last of my list, but not least, is Paul Ekman with Friesen that created a facial coding system. Because the vast majority of emotional facial recognition implementation are based on Ekman works, I would like to spend some words about it with a question. Do any of you recognize this character played by Tim Roth, Dr. Cal Lightman? I can see your hands, so I ask Marco to tell me if anyone is.
I can recognize him. It's from Lie to Me.
Yes, yes, exactly. He was acting in the 2009 TV series called Lie to Me, a TV series that tells the life of Paul Ekman in a fictional way, but it's about him. And I highly recommend to watch it if you doesn't seen this series before. And anyway, Paul Ekman is an American psychologist and professor emeritus at the University of California at San Francisco, and he was included in the list of 100 most influential people in the world by 2009 Times Magazine list. And he started his research by inspired by the work of Charles Darwin and also that of psychology Sylvan Solomon Tompkins. And he has shown that facial expressions and emotion, rather to be determined by culture of a particular place or a particular tradition bounded to a culture, they follow instead a logic of universality, and therefore tend to recur all over the world, indicating that they have a biological origin, exactly like said before. And he and his research group collaborate with important public and also private institutions, such as Police Department of New York City. As you can remember about the TV series, there is something like that even in the TV series, but also with Harvard and Brown University, and also with Disney Pixar, as you can imagine, and also DreamWorks. As you can imagine, the study of emotions of the characters in those animated movies are fundamental for the appreciation of the movie. So he's studying a sample of the Papua New Guinea population and finding that their facial expression were extremely similar to those of Western people. He studied in the 50s. This is important. So he started his studies in the 50s. Then he proposed that there were 6 primary emotions, universally expressed by the same facial expression by all humans. And as you can see in the slide, these emotions are happiness, sadness, fear, anger, surprise, and disgust. I will read what is written in the slides, because I think someone could be only listening and not watching the slides, so I will read the text. And so 6 emotion, and considering the neutral state, he defined there are 7 core emotional states detectable by using facial expression recognition. So 6 emotion and the neutral state. And as these emotional states are the one actually detectable by facial expression recognition tool, like the one we'll see in the last part of this seminar. And with the last update in the 1992, he described another 10 universal expressed emotion, bringing to 16 the facial expressions detectable emotional state is. So the 7 core emotional states, including the neutral, plus other 10 that are contentment, embarrassment, excitement, fault, relief, satisfaction, sensory pleasure, pride of own success, and also shame. As already said, he and Wallace Friesen have collected the correspondence between some facial expression and the movement on the facial muscles in the so-called facial action coding system, where each facial action and the related movement of the affected muscles, facial muscles, was collected in what they termed action units, or AU. And they described each emotional state by the action units involved in the facial expression. So we can see in the slide an example. In this example, there are the typical action units that describe the facial expression of anger. So we have lowering the eyebrows as action unit 4, lifting and contraction of the lower eyelid, that is marked as action unit 7, widening of the eye opening as action unit 5, lift the upper lip as action unit 10, and all together with various incidation, various percentual of them, all lead to the face of the anger we can see also in this example, and this is taken from the website of Paul Ekman, of the Paul Ekman and the Paul Ekman Research Group. So, any question?
So there is one question from Jorge Guerra Pires from the YouTube.
Okay.
He's asking, can this theory be applied to help people with low emotional intelligence to identify emotions?
Well, we are thank you for the question. We are talking about artificial intelligence, so this is we are talking what it takes to an artificial intelligence to recognize human emotions. We're talking about humans that can learn to recognize those emotions. I think because even Paul Ekman organizes courses to improve emotional intelligence, I think the answer is yes. Anyway, even if you have not so improved emotional intelligence, you can always do better with exercise, and with you can improve your emotional intelligence exactly like all the other intelligence. So I think yes, it is possible to persons with not so improved emotional intelligence to recognize emotions, even if they cannot, they are not so good discerning from an emotion between another emotion, or the gradient between two emotions. But I think for the 6 emotions, basic emotions, even persons with low emotional intelligence is possible to recognize. I hope I have answered your questions. Please, Marco, let me know as I can't read the chat.
So there is another question, but let's go on and to the next session, and I will read it out later.
Excuse me, can you repeat?
I mean, let's go on to the next section, and then we will read it.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, while the psychosocial theories I told you about were taking shape, even the information technology and computer science landscapes were also in full swinging in those years. And you can see a very young David Bowie watching with attention to his Mac. And I think this is a very nice picture that can resemble those years. And anyway, one of the main events that are significant, there were an enormous quantity of events in those years. Anyway, one of the main events that are significant to our journey, what we are discussing today, is the birth of the natural network computational model that we can find in the paper A Logical Calculus of Ideas Immanent in Nervous Activity by McCulloch and Pitts. And in this paper, they described the functioning of the neurons by schematizing a linear threshold combiner and with multiple binary data in input and a single binary data in output. And they also proposed a simple model of neural network composed by electronic circuits, and it was 1943. So this incredible work for the time led over the next 60 years to the current technology of artificial neural network, laying the foundation for what we know as machine learning, data mining, and also big data analysis. But for what is interesting for us, also enabling also producing the enabled technology for emotion analysis. The real artificial empathy insight, what we call empathy for artificial intelligence insight. So the very first time anyone publicly and scientifically speculated that computers could be soon dealing with emotions was in 1997, and it was from Rosalind Picard. And she wrote in his article entitled Affective Computing, something like computers are beginning to acquire the ability to express and recognize affect, so emotions, and may soon be given the ability to have emotions. Well, this last phrase is a bit hard to receive, but for the first part of the sentence, I think we have something to say, and the technology take its time to go there. And in the last 20 years, the Rosalind Picard prediction actually came true. At least for the first part. So we actually have the technology that enables a computer to recognize facial expression through computation, and also through artificial intelligence, and that we can actually call a rudimental artificial empathy if the intelligent system is actually enabled to react accordingly to the emotions it can perceive from the human. So if we define empathy as the ability to recognize emotion and to act accordingly, something that can recognize an emotion and act accordingly is, we can call it empathic. For the second part of the statement, we are still debating what it means for a human to have an emotion. So we could actually measure the reaction of an emotion, for example, to facial expression. Yes, we can measure it. We can measure the reaction, but we have to wait on a scientific agreement on what it means to have an emotion before to be able to measure them in computers. So, in the study I've conducted in 2018 for my master thesis degree, and also for later for my articles, I have analyzed more than 15 emotion recognition systems using artificial intelligence. And it was a lucky moment for this kind of technology, because later in that year, and in 2019, regulations about privacy and regulations about the use of facial recognition technology heavily impacted on the market. And some of the products you can see there in the slides were shut down because of the lack of compliance to regulations. For example, regulations like GDPR and for Europe and similar regulation around the world. Anyway, it was possible for me to study, replicate, and integrate some of these systems in an emotion recognition analysis tool that we are going to see today. And the tool that I created in collaboration with the Psychobiology in a Physiological Psychology Laboratory at the Department of Applied Clinical Science and Biotechnology of Università dell'Aquila, a department that Marco should know very well. This tool is called STRIE, and that is an acronym for Research Tool for the Integration of Emotional Analysis. It is a customized interface to the emotional recognition services, whose neural network allows the analysis of facial expressions. Those expressions were attributable to primary emotions. So it can recognize also a series of other useful data for experiments that were conducted in the laboratory at the time. The tool was developed following the laboratory requests that were ability to recognize the 6 main emotions, ability to save a time code for the synchronization with other experiments, portability, so the possibility to move the instrument between systems and location, the ability to be used on a simple laptop with a webcam, so without further measure instruments, and the possibility to have a spreadsheet in output with the results of measurements to be incorporated with other results. And this is, you can see in the slide, the screenshot of the resulting tool, and it can detect in the end 7 main emotional states. So the 6 core emotion plus neutral, and it can also detect glasses, smile, skin, age, and other characteristic features. And it is web-based as requested and used webcam of the system. It can show a preview spider graph. It creates a detailed report according to the lab request. And as you can see in this sample, you can see a report in the form of a spreadsheet, and where all measurements are shown exactly near the time code that is accurate to the 1,000th of a second. This to enable the researcher to associate the emotional detection to the same moment in another experiment, and so cross-analyze the results. And here we go. So if you have the time, we can reply to some question if there are some, or I will be happy to show the tool in real time. And for this demo, because I'm using my webcam for this transmission, I will feed the video showing facial expression to the webcam stream to show the results and show you the tool. What do you think, Marco? Do we have questions to reply, or do we go with the demo?
So before the demo, there is another question from Jorge from YouTube. So statistically speaking, what is the significance of those algorithms? Even humans can make mistakes. Would those results be higher? I suppose you can use humans to make annotation, which is the process of telling the machine the answers.
It's a very good question. I should have introduced a slide about errors that I took before this presentation. Anyway, thank you for the question. The actual accuracy ratio I had with this instrument is 97%. This is very, very 96-97% of what? This is a very nice and interesting topic. We don't have exactly a fixed scheme for emotions. We can only compare the results of the artificial neural network, so with the results of the computer with the human results. So those artificial intelligence were trained using the facial coding action units by Paul Ekman, but also human trained, because the data set where the training was done with those artificial intelligence were tagged by humans. So humans tagged some expressions with some emotions. This means that those artificial intelligence reach the 97% of accuracy against a trained human, or a set of trained humans that are recognizing the same image. So I think as we are talking about artificial intelligence, we are going to sacrifice accuracy against consistency, because we don't have this 96, 95, 97% accuracy only if we have a trained agent, human agent, that are watching this image. We have 96, 97% accuracy every time, exactly with the speed that at the same speed we can feed the images into the artificial intelligence. Human eyes have to blink sometime, so even a trained human agent have to blink, and the human concentration have a limit. So while artificial intelligence can reach 96, 97% of accuracy anytime, anywhere. These are the results. No one of those providers give exactly the accuracy, because obviously no one likes to see their products are faulty. So this is what I have measured in my research. Anyway, I think it's a very nice achievement for 2018. I don't know now if those results are improved. I hope I answered these questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, let's try to be a little bit shorter with the answers. Otherwise, a lot of questions will not be answered, and we want to answer all of them.
Obviously, if I'm missing something, I will have this. This is my email address, so you can write to me if you need. So, we have another question, we can go on.
Let's go on with the demo, I think.
Okay. So, this is the interface, and I'm going to start the recognizing, and as you can see, I'm feeding a video with emotional expressions, and as you can see in the spider graph inside, there is a good accuracy about what expressions we can see. I think because this video is in slow motion, and I also I am transmitting with my webcam with full resolution, I think and also Marco said it to me, there is a bit the frame rate is a bit low, but I hope you can see the correspondence between the image and the graph inside. I can stop the recognizing, and as you can see, it will ask me to download the data file that we are going to see now. So I hope, Marco, please confirm me you can see a stop motion screenshot of this tool.
Yes.
I stopped it to
sadness.
Sadness, yes. Well, it is not exactly sadness. I will start again. I will Okay, this is a bit more complex. Okay, we can see we don't have only one single emotion in the expression. This instrument, this tool, is able to recognize more than one emotion in the same image. So it also takes a human to do an interpretation of this exactly the context and exactly the emotion of this face. As you can see in this face, we can see fear, we can see anger, and this came with also a little disgust and a little sadness. So at this exactly time code, this is Italian time code, Italian time. We're at when we, as you can see, the thousandth of a second. We have this kind of information, and we also have exactly information about the image we are looking at, and we have the informations about the percentage of the emotion that we can see in the image. So I will try to restart it again. As you can see, I'm going to use OCB for, okay. I can see it with a high frame rate, so I can see a smooth transaction between emotions in the same video. I hope you can enjoy the same gradient transmission through and a transaction to a neutral, and then also fear, or for example surprise in this time, or sadness for what we can see this now. And I think it is so we stop the recognizing. I'm going to open this file so we can see it. Just a moment. I'm opening it on another monitor. I would like to show exactly the same. Okay. There are Italian tag just because we worked in Italian, but I think you can easily translate those emotions in English. So this is the date, the exactly time code, and those are the percentage of exactly that moment. And you can see there are a smooth transaction between those in the same second. We have two measurements. He also detected the age. I hope it is not too small. Marco, can please confirm me that you can read what I'm watching?
Maybe if you zoom in a little bit, it's better. Okay, that's perfect.
Thank you. So, as you can see, there is a complex emotion. We can see with 99% of sureness that we have a smile. The age, the estimation of an age of the subject, the gender, and those percentage. So we can know exactly in that moment which is the emotion that the subject is feeling. So that concludes my demo, and I think I can go back to my slides, and here I am for for questions. So, are there any questions?
Okay, thank you very much, Patrizio.
Thank you.
Of course, there are questions. So let's start with another one from Jorge, since it's about the simulation itself. So we're on topic. So first of all, he's asking, why the white background?
So why I'm using a white background on
the facial recognition video.
No, this is just what I was feeding into that. If you want, I can try to do something like this. I will have a moment. I have to stop my feed to Teams, if you agree. So I stop now, and I'm going to I give my webcam, and if I'm lucky, no, I'm sorry, but it seems
anyway, I guess it doesn't need to be a white background. It would recognize the face.
I would like to demonstrate it with the live demo. If you give the permission, Marco, I will use OBS to cut your image, or I use mine if you don't agree, so I can use live.
Should I smile?
Yes, just a moment. I will cut. Okay, so try it. Okay, try some expression. I hope you can see.
Got the surprised part very well.
It's a bit small because I'm cut your image from. So this is a white. The background was white just because it was a video I was feeding into the webcam stream. Mm-hmm. So it does not to be white. It should work with any background.
That's fantastic. Okay, so we can go to Michela Ciocca's question, which she posed earlier. So, what effect can the use of face masks have on the identification of emotions? Can they be identified only by the eyes?
We are talking today about facial expression. So emotion can be detected even with heartbeats, or even with skin galvanometry. An emotion is something that is we are really not discussing today. We are discussing the effects on the body, effects of emotion on the body, and what is detectable. So there are a lot of things, a lot of expression of the body while we are feeling an emotion. This is just one of them. In the paper I presented you in the very beginning of the speech, I have also done something like a list that we can use as a list to detect emotion even without any image. This is very simple because it is even with a webcam, that something that even with this pandemic situation everyone has, we can detect emotion. So this is just a simple way to detect emotions. There are other ways. So this is just one of the the tools we can use.
I guess in these machines are, they have more tools than us. They can have infrared cameras. You can perceive heartbeats. So there are ways, I guess, that you can refine and even identify deception. Because
Absolutely.
I guess
yes, absolutely yes, and exactly like because emotions are human expression abilities. Exactly like a human can be decepted, even a machine can be decepted. You can have more trained and more able human that can detect some emotion, and also you can have an artificial intelligence that are more able or less able to detect deception. So because this is communication, obviously you can communicate also what is not true, depending on your ability. Even something that someone who doesn't want to show emotion can train himself herself to do not show emotions.
Great. So let's go to the next question, which is from Denise Boncioli. How do you check the correctness of the identification of emotions?
If you mean me, I've done some testing with a research in my research group. So we have effectively and manually detected the correctness of the emotions. If you are talking about in general how anyone can check the correctness of the identification of emotions, as said before, emotions are a human communication channel. So you need a human to detect an emotion, and you need a human to say if this emotion is exactly an emotion and it is correct. Then you can pass somehow this knowledge to a machine that can replicate these results. So you have some theory, and we talked today about the Paul Ekman theories about facial motions. So this is a scientific theory that will say that if you use those muscles, you are smiling. So this is you can measure it, and machines are very able and very fast measuring things. And you also can use a human that can say to you if these emotions, what you see is exactly the emotion you are detecting. So this is the way you detect the correctness of the emotions.
Fantastic. So there are two questions from Ilaria Di Carlo. So first of all, she comments that it's really interesting. So the first one is there an error rate in the emotion analysis, which I guess you answered already.
Yes.
So the second one is, would it be possible to tell if a person is lying by facial expression? And we go back to lie to me.
Yes, this is exactly what I have to say about this. What my answer is. Please watch the TV series Lie to Me. Anyway, the answer is yes. And Paul Ekman is a researcher. He's also a counselor that can help New York Police Department to find who is guilty of a crime. So yes, you can absolutely tell if a person is lying by facial expression. Obviously you need a very trained professional that can do it, and machine can help. Anyway, I don't think that there is a 100% ratio ever, because the liar can be more trained than the person who is trying to know if someone is lying. So there is a race about who is more prepared to find the other one.
Okay. Oh, by the way, you can stop sharing your screen now, so we can see you better.
Yes.
And so there is another question by Luca Giacchi, which is also shared by Professor Teti. So in your opinion, could it be possible to use this type of system to recognize people's behavior by analyzing body movements, like an aggressive or a peaceful behavior? And Professor Teti comments that this is like Lombroso's method.
Well, Lombroso and this facial recognition theory about Paul Ekman are something that I think they can't be in the same phrase. There are completely different research fields, and there was also completely different times. Paul Ekman conducted a research that is scientifically accepted, and it says that to some in normal condition, absolutely, if you have something like paralysis, you can't move some facial muscles, so this can't be considered universal for everything. We are talking about normal consideration, normal situation where a person can effectively move facial muscles. In those cases, there are the possibility to analyze body movements and to say that with a certain sureness that an emotion is feel or expressed by the person, because this is the very interesting part of the discussion. We are trying to detect the expression of emotions. We can't read mind. We can read body expressions. So, yes, we can lie. Yes, we can train ourselves to not express some emotion by not moving some facial muscles. So, this is not 100% certainty that the subject is feeling that emotion. But while there is no truth machine involved, while there is no crime involved, while there is no liars involved, we can say with 95-97% that a person is feeling that emotion, or is expressing that emotions. This is a very interesting result. Obviously, we immediately think about the truth machines, about liars, about who is good to express emotions, about borderline cases like paralysis. Yes, those are cases in which probably we should not use facial expression recognitions of emotion. But in all the other cases, this is a technology that is useful. For example, if a person is taking a test about what is good or what is bad for him, and this test is conducted by showing some images, we can at the same time record those involuntary facial reaction to those images. So we can effectively know if this person is reacting in some way to those images, and we can cross-analyze those data I said before. I hope I have answered this hard question. Obviously, if we talk about Lombroso's method, I think we are not taking effectively this technology for what it is. So this is, I hope I have done some clarification about what we are talking today.
Okay, thank you. So we have 2 more questions. I don't think we have time to answer all of them, so just go with the first. What is the probability let's say the tool, what will it be used for most probably? Can the tool be used for investigation during a process like
I think I've just partially replied to this question. Anyway, I will try to focus something about the actual status quo. Actually, an investigator and a process is conducted by a human being that can be deceptive, that can be fooled, that can be biased in any possible way. This is a not perfect technology, but it can really help. So the probably most used case of this tool, exactly this tool, is to record involuntary facial expression, so emotions, during other experiments, as I told you before. If you think about the borderline case to what we can watch into the Minority Report movie. So we are trying to find if someone is going to do a crime before it happens. Well, absolutely not. But we can use this tool, for example, to see if a person is feeling fear. Think about an autonomous car. Think about the fact that this autonomous car is going to stop in some situations where, for example, there is a child on the road. If every sensor, any sensor is failing, the LiDAR is failing, the webcam is failing, but there is a webcam inside the car and is watching the face of the driver, and it suddenly detect fear, something can happen accordingly. So I think this technology could be used, could be find use cases in positive ways and not only detecting criminals.
Okay, thank you very much, Patrizio. There is one question from Francesco that you can answer in the chat, probably, so we can read it later. So for today, I think we sadly have to close the meeting, but it was very interesting for us, and it was a pleasure to have you here today with us, Patrizio. And I just want to say that Patrizio is also joining the TMS committee, so
thank you very much for
welcome.
accepting me.
And so I will just give a brief introduction about next week, where we will have a career talk from Professor Teti, the chair of the TMS, and she will tell us something about a career in academia. So we look forward to having you here, and I hope you will be as numerous as today, because we were almost 200, so it was very well attended, and hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. So thank you, and see you next week with Professor Anna Teti. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ciao Patrizio.
Ciao, thank you.